Good Tuesday, rather Thursday morning. I'll get it right. There's a buzz. I'm distracted. I've been doing all kinds of radio shows and podcasts and Zoom stuff, actually called Realstream, which I'd never used until today, because there is interest in this Memphis and Arkansas football game. Now, to the best of my knowledge, the capacity for this game is going to be 39,000 and change. And they said yesterday there were 4,000 tickets that were still available. That came yesterday morning. So that means there's 35,000 tickets sold. That will be the best crowd in the last few years. Landon Schmidt, producer extraordinaire, what do you think the makeup of that crowd will be? In essence, I'm hoping 70% Memphis, 30% Arkansas. I do think Arkansas is going to bring some folks. Look, it's right across. I mean, the stadium's, 10 miles away from the river, if that. So you're right there on the doorstep of Arkansas. And they went to Ole Miss last week. They're going to be traveling from all over the state to get to Fayetteville next week because Notre Dame is in town. I don't think this is a trap game at all. It might have been had they beaten Ole Miss, but they lost. So now they want to right the ship, especially that's a damaging loss considering all the other tough SEC games they're going to have. They can't let this one go by. So this is no longer a trap game. Had they won that game, they would have gone, oh, my gosh, we got Notre Dame next week. We're perfect. All we got to do is beat little old Memphis. That won't be that tough. And then, man, here we go. We could beat Notre Dame, and we're in the playoff picture. But that didn't happen. They lost. So it's a little like, to me, Georgia, Tennessee. Tennessee should have won the football game. They didn't. Now they are really going to take it out on UAB this week. I think it was a good thing for Tulane that Ole Miss got past Arkansas. So they may not be as down on themselves as they would have been. This is not a trap game. And even though the folks are going to be going to Fayetteville, I think there will be a bunch of red-wearing fans Saturday.
I think so, too. I'm reminded back when Ole Miss came in town a few years ago, back when Paxton Lynch was at the helm, and that was the most packed I had seen the Liberty Bowl in a long, long time. But I think what we'll probably see is, like you said, hopefully it's predominantly Memphis, 70% of the stadium full of blue with some red sprinkled throughout. But then they'll have their Arkansas section in that zone of the end zone. So I think we're going to have a lot of Arkansas fans. Like I was driving around this morning, I'm seeing Arkansas Razorback stickers on the back of cars almost everywhere you look. I mean, that's how close they are to us. But my hope is that it's a sea of blue out there, and I think it will be.
Like I say, 70-30 would be good. If it's better than that, it'll be better than that. Just no worse than that. That would be my fear. I want it to be a sellout. I can't remember. Well, I can remember the game day game, Memphis versus SMU. That was definitely a sellout. That was capacity at what was then the Liberty Bowl. Now it's Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. I don't think we had a sellout in Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. Maybe the AutoZone Liberty Bowl did, but certainly not the Tigers. And if they could do that, even though it's diminished capacity at around 39,000, and they're close. I mean, all you need is 4,000 as of yesterday, and usually you can get a walk-up on game day, and the weather's going to be, according to Ron Childers, it's going to be spectacular because it will be – I think the high is 91 on Saturday, but the game is being played at 11. So you'll be in the 80s for the majority of the game. The sun isn't at its worst. At 2 o'clock, it starts to become – and 3 o'clock, it's trouble. The worst time for a game is 2 or 3 in the afternoon if you're sitting in those east stands. And that's the majority of the seating now because of the construction on the west side. I think the weather's going to be beautiful. You know, everybody talks about how you can have a big walk-up crowd. You know, there's logistics to walking up. Like, you got to buy the tickets. You got to go through that whole process. You've got lines there. I don't think And I know we've had this discussion, but it's pretty hard to sell more than 6,000 tickets the day of the game. But you're already down to 4,000 as of yesterday. Maybe you're down to 3 or 2,000 today. So if there is a walk-up, that is a feasible number. I just want to see the first sellout in what we know as Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. And I think there's a chance.
I think so too. Yeah, and I mean that's the hope. It's always fun to see the entire Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium back when it was the Liberty Bowl, whatever you want to call it. Is when it's filled out, it's a lot of fun because you look around and you see, I mean, everybody's all the way up to the rafters up there, and it's just exciting, especially with the home crowd. It's always an advantage for us when we got the entire home crowd chanting, yelling. We got the band playing, like all of that just adds to the atmosphere, and it just makes the games more fun.
Well, just look, since 14, the most home wins in the country. I'm trying to remember who it is. It might be Alabama. Might be Ohio State, but I know that Memphis is either third or fourth at home. Mm-hmm. I know that it's like well over 80% winning percentage at home for Ryan Silverfield. So, and he's in his 6th year. What is funny is that Talon Green, the quarterback for Arkansas, has actually played in more games in that stadium than Memphis' starting quarterback, Brendan Lewis. Lewis just played in the one game against Chattanooga, which the Tigers were winners. Talon Green, on the other hand, he has played here with Boise. Remember, he played in the game a couple of years ago that Memphis came from behind to win, and in that game, he was really a good running quarterback, but he was struggling with the pass. He's a much better player now. Maybe some of that is the Bobby Petrino offense that he has mastered. Maybe it's maturity and getting reps and understanding things a little bit better. He's a much better quarterback than he was then. And then last year he played incredibly well. I think he was the MOP of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl when the Hogs won that game. He was terrific in that game. So he's played here twice, in the Liberty Bowl, AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and with Boise, and Lewis has only played once. And there's one other connection. I did not know this until the fine reporting that was done by Jonah Dillon from the Commercial Appeal, that they played Taylor Green and Brendan Lewis on the same youth basketball team that was coached by Taylor Green's father, Quentin Green. How about that? That's an amazing story to me. And apparently, Lewis is 1 year older than Green, so they didn't always play together, but the dad coached Lewis from like 6 years old to 4th grade. So there's a great connection there. And he talked about the one thing about Brendan Lewis. This is the Taylor Green's dad. He's saying, this kid came to play every game, hard, every practice, hard. He never had to worry about effort. And that he was a really good basketball player, too. So all interesting stuff, the connection between Green and Lewis. And actually, their styles are very similar. And the passing game may be an important aspect in all of this. Memphis runs the ball. I know a little bit more after my meetings with the coaches today. But Memphis clearly has been a running offense. And when you look at the Arkansas defense, they've been a little bit better, as Sam Pittman reminded us, at stopping the run. So, all right, Memphis is going to have to score to keep up with Arkansas. They're going to score. I know that. So if they can't run, can they throw the ball? Those are some of the things. We'll talk about that with Jarvis Greer in our last segment. We talk all college basketball. Is there a dominant college football team? I'm going to ask Bill Bender that question right off the bat. The terrific college football writer for the Sporting News. He joins us at about 10:25, and we are about to hook up with Pete Pranica on the NBA and on the Grizzlies, and he has been in the Big Apple in New York City at the NBA broadcast meeting, so we'll see what he learned there as I sit in the Family Leisure Studios, and I remind all of you, The world's biggest spa sale is on, and I mean it's big. It's incredibly priced, with spas starting at just under $3,000. Those swim spas, the big ones, you can get 30% off on those. Floor models have special prices as well. Just go in to I-40 and Whidden Road. Go see Billy. Go see Lindsay. Go ask about these special floor model prices. You might want to inquire about the newest trend. That is the cold plunges. Go outside and run in 90-degree heat and get really hot, and then jump into an ice pool. And that's what they're doing all over the place. Or they go from a sauna or a hot tub in there, gets the circulation going. They're incredible, and they're under $5,000. Also, the same deal I've been talking about for a couple of months now. If you buy a patio set, you get a free umbrella. There's swimming pool clearance pricing going on as the season comes to an end. Great stuff with special financing available, all happening right now. I-40 and Whidden Road at Family Leisure. We go cross town. Our friend has actually unpacked. He's all settled, at least for a little bit. He's come back from those broadcast meetings in New York City. Good morning, Pete. What'd you learn in the Big Apple?
Good morning. What did we learn? We learned that the television ratings are holding steady, and we learned that there's going to be a slightly new interpretation of one particular foul call this year, and the NBA continues to work hard about game flow to try to shorten the games and to make the instant replay reviews more efficient. Mike Krzyzewski visited with us. Adam Silver visited with us. So it was, and we got to meet the executives in charge of Amazon and NBC that are going to be the new broadcast partners. Looked at how that breaks out. We actually had a presentation from the guy that does the scheduling and learned a little bit more about how the schedule is put together. So all very, very intriguing stuff. But the best part is you get to see your friends from around the league that you've known for 10, 20 years, and a chance to break bread and have a glass of wine.
It sounds like a really fun thing. So let's go back on some of those things you said, and let's start with foul interpretation. What are we talking about here? And is this a drastic thing or just a subtle thing?
It's very, very subtle. So if people have been watching our telecast, you know that from time to time we've referred to the high five on a jump shot. All right, shooter releases a jump shot on the follow through. The defender is contesting cleanly. There's no body-to-body contact. There's no contact on the arm, but the defender's hand hits the shooter's hand, and it looks like a nice high five. That is not a foul. However, what they were finding and looking at plays last year is that defenders weren't merely contesting and, like maybe flipping their wrist to make contact. They were taking pretty violent swings. And so the contact ended up being high five, but it was a slap rather than a little, tap on the hand. If you deliver that high five with force, where you're swinging your arm through the hand of the shooter, that's going to be a foul this year.
So that's a wind-up kind of is how I visualize that.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So that is pretty subtle. And, the thing that bugs me is when they kick a leg out and they make any kind of little contact and then fall. I mean, the flopping on that stuff, that bugs me more than the high five.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because we were taught how referees do the mechanics in ruling on that play. Referees are taught up, down, rebound. And by that, there's a shooter, so your head and eyes are on the ground, 2 or 3. Your head and eyes go upward now on the release of the shot. As you go up, do you see body contact? Do you see contact on the arm? Do you see contact on the wrist? Do you see contact on the hand? Is any of that illegal? So you go up and you go down to see if the defender has landed in the shooter's landing area.
Right.
So you go up, down, assuming that you see nothing there that's illegal. Then you put eyes for the rebound and a potential loose ball foul. That was one of the most beneficial things is Monty McCutcheon saying, this is how we tell our referees, these are their areas of responsibility. If you're a lead, this is where you're supposed to be looking. If you're a trail, here's where you look. If you're a slot, here's where you look. So that you understand. So many times people complain that the lead is on the strong side of the floor, on the baseline, and people will complain, Well, why didn't they call goaltending? They're closest to it. Proximity does not equal a clean sight line. So that's something that is good for us to know, because if you see a referee is like, well, why did they make that call? And you know where they're standing, what their area of responsibility is, then you may have some clue as to why the play turned out that way, right or wrong. And just understanding the mechanics of officiating, I think, is great. They're working on technological innovations that I think you're going to see more decisions, particularly the out-of-bounds and proximate foul. Those decisions will come from the referee assigned to the game in Secaucus, and they will make the determination. And I think eventually they're going to have the ability to radio to a little headset, a little earpiece that the crew chief will have, and say, I have out-of-bounds to Memphis, but there's a proximate foul on the Grizzlies. And so what it's going to avoid is, right now, if you have, there's an out-of-bounds call, coach challenges. Crew chief walks to the table, pushes the microphone. We have a coach's challenge on the out-of-bounds play. We're also checking for approximate foul. Then you have two of the three referees put headsets on, and then they look at the play, and they make the determination. Well, then they got a conference in the third official, and then they're talking to the fourth official, who's in Secaucus. And with as much time as I've spent with NBA officials, Wolo, there are a lot of times where you can show five officials a call, and the vote could be 3-2. You know, because a lot of it's judgment.
Right.
So what they're trying to do is streamline it so that rather than have guys come over to the table, put on headsets, look at the monitor, the referee, and there's a referee assigned to every game in Secaucus, that they would make the judgment on the play and simply buzz the crew chief and say, out of bounds Memphis ball, or whatever it is for certain types of calls. And that's simply to make the game go faster. The other thing we're going to see this year, the Hawkeye technology was used last year for goaltending calls, downward flight, ball in the cylinder. Now they've worked out a way that the computer imaging of that will be available, that you'll see it on the Jumbotron. You will see what Hawkeye sees if the ball's on its downward flight or if it's in the cylinder, and they've determined the precision of Hawkeye in those plays is 1 millimeter, within 1 millimeter. So there you go.
What would their goal be? I mean, they're trying to shorten the game. First of all, it's pretty amazing to me. College basketball game is 2 hours. An NBA game with the added quarter minutes and everything else that goes with it, because I don't know what your breaks are, but they're almost always on the money, 2.5 hours. What is the ideal NBA time they're shooting for?
Well, the average time last year was 2 hours and 16 minutes. So that's, they would like to take that down a few minutes, but they're reasonably pleased with an average time of 2:16. You will get longer games because those games that are on national TV, those ad breaks are longer than games that are simply done on local. But they did say the average game time last year was 2 hours and 16 minutes.
And they want that to be a bit. It seems to me with. Even though they're trying to streamline the length of time of the monitor, the way they got the monitor thing set up, we may have more monitor calls. I don't know how it's going to shorten, but
no. But what they're trying to do is trying to take the decision off the on-court officials, put it in Secaucus, they can radio it, and so you may not have the officials even come to the monitor. And the number of challenges remains the same. So. I think they feel they're in a good place from a game flow perspective.
It was interesting to me the way you just broke that down. Some of the times we will say, how did that referee right there not make the call the other guy did? And based on what you said, depending on the positioning of the ref, where that guy is, he's supposed to look at a different specific as opposed to the overall general view. And he may get a part of that. He could be brought in to put input into the discussion. But he's got a specific thing he's to look at if he's under the basket or if he's the trail referee.
Exactly. And so sometimes if a referee says it's not my call, it really truly is not his call. And as Monty McCutcheon, who runs the officiating office, told us, he said, I don't want three guys looking at the ball. We got to defend other players, or we have to referee other players. The other thing too, that sometimes as a referee, your sight line gets stacked. You can't see through players. You don't have X-ray vision.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it may look like the play's right in front of you, but when you think of where the official's standing, well, there's, Jonas Valanciunas and Steven Adams standing in their way. They can't see it. They can't see the contact because in their terminology, they're stacked. That's the term that they use.
You mentioned ratings that I know nationally they are really good. Do they break down the local ratings as well? Like, are the ratings in New York and Boston, their local package is really good? Where does the Grizzlies broadcast with you and with Brendan and everybody else? Where does that stand?
They don't break it out by team. They were looking at it in general, and generally the ratings are right where they have been. They've been maintaining, given the number of cord cutting. They factor that into that as well. So overall, they're very pleased with the product. They do a ton of fan research, unbelievable amount of fan research, and so the theme for this year has become celebrate and educate. What they found, fans do not want to hear analysts complaining about how the way the game is played these days.
Huh.
Too many threes. In my day, we didn't do that.
Right.
Fans don't want to hear that. They want to hear the game celebrated, and fans want to be educated. They want to know above and beyond who made the basket. Like, well, why did they get open? How did they get open? Who set the screen? Who didn't switch properly? And so those are the things that Brevin is very, very good at, as good as anybody in the league in explaining those types of things. So, and as far as bringing the energy and celebrating the game, I don't think that Brevin and I lack in that department at all.
Well, I will say this, and you as well, because you probably know the rules better than most announcers do. I would say that your education aspect is probably if you're looking at celebration versus education, I would say the education is even the bigger strength. We all know that you guys, who you're for, Brevin is certainly very specific about that, which would be part of the celebration. But I think it is the educational aspect that you guys put forth that is a strength.
Yeah, we try to explain what's happening and why it's happening. Anybody can tell you who shot the ball, whether it's a 2 or a 3, and who committed the foul. But it's why did it happen that way? What's going on in the game? And that is a lot of preparation, how we think a team is going to play. What is their identity? And then once you establish, okay, we know Oklahoma City wants to play this way. They are a driving, penetrating basketball team. This particular team is a pick-and-roll team. And then so you set up those storylines early on in the game to try to educate the fan because, you may not see. I always use the example of the Washington Wizards. I need to know how the Wizards are going to play. They're going to play fast. They're going to play slow. Do they do pick-and-roll? Do they do dribble handoffs? All these types of things, just so we can explain, here's what you can expect to see from the Washington Wizards, and we think this is how the Grizzlies are going to try to take that away. And we're not trying to show off how smart we are, but we are trying to educate fans because the research, Wolo, shows fans want behind-the-scenes access, and they want to be educated about the game. Those are things they really want.
Well, just simple things like last year when there was the change made from Taylor Jenkins to Tuamas Isolo, you saw more pick and roll, and that's why Zach Edey was so much better. That's why Ja came to life because he loves the pick and roll aspect, and you guys pointed that out, and I think that's the important part of a broadcast. I really do.
Yeah, the biggest piece of advice I ever got, the late, great Steve Snapper Jones, God rest his soul, he said, I think our job is to explain to viewers what is the identity of the two teams that are playing. And if you can set that as a storyline, then you can work against that the entire game. Hey, either they're playing to their identity or they've been taken out of their identity. Why have they been taken out of their identity? And so you always have that as that baseline that you can draw on as a storyline throughout the game.
Last thing, real quick, since we're talking television, you guys are back on FanDuel again. This is another year. How much longer is that contract?
I'm not going to speak to the contractual matters. There's a lot of sensitivity around those things right now. We're on FanDuel, and we're looking forward to a great season.
All right. Thank you, Pete. We appreciate it. We will talk with you next Thursday.
Sounds good.
That's Pete Pranica, TV voice of the Grizzlies. We pause for a second. When we come back, we will head to Columbus, Ohio. The great college football writer Bill Bender from the Sporting News is front and center right here on Wolo and Friends.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Everything today is technologically based. Well, except maybe you. If you're struggling with tech, no matter what kind, call Tech For You. Tech For You for TVs, home theaters, cameras, smart locks, digital storage, and more. Tech For You makes it simple and affordable. Call 697-9695. Make your home safe, comfortable, and up to date with Tech For You. Stop struggling with tech. Call 697-9695. Veteran-owned and operated Tech For You. Technology simplified.
Memphis football is back in action Saturday, September 20th, when the Tigers take on SEC neighbor Arkansas in the Rhythm and Roar game presented by FedEx. Kickoff is at 11, and Tiger Nation, wear blue. The first 5,000 fans will score a special T-shirt honoring the culture and history of Memphis music. Plus, enjoy Tiger Walk and stick around for live music on Tiger Lane, hosted by Stax Academy. Don't miss it. Be all in and get your tickets now at gotigersgo.com/tickets.
If you're looking for a cool new ride, run, don't walk to Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike. Get your 2025 Taos S. We Gossett $236 a month. How about 2025 Jetta Sport? We Gossett $239 a month. Plus a Gossett Volkswagen Covington Pike 2025 Atlas Cross Sport SE $279 a month. And every 2025 Atlas Peak Edition and SEL Atlas $5,000 off MSRP. That's all 2025 Atlas Peak Editions and SEL Atlas $5,000 off MSRP. So run, don't walk to Gossett Volkswagen 1875 Covington Pike or online GossettVWMemphis.com, where we're charging forward and charging less every day. If you want it, we Gossett at Gossett Volkswagen.
All 36 monthly, 7,500 miles, 25 cents excess mileage. Taos S SMO 56598, MSRP 27011. Jetta SMO 851,138, MSRP 25916. Cross SC 230,120, MSRP 39206. Peak Editions SEL Atlas 3,500 manufacturer rebate 1,500. Gossett discount includes all rebates and incentives. Must finance through Volkswagen Credit. Excludes tax title and license with approved credit dealer stock only. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 9/30/25.
Hi, it's the Herd. Identity theft can cost you more than you think. It can drain investment accounts, stolen tax returns, lost wages, expenses for lawyers. It's a lot. That's why LifeLock is backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers up to $3 million for the most comprehensive plan. So if your money is stolen due to identity theft, they've got your back. Personal expenses, if you have those while resolving identity theft, like paying for travel or extra childcare, LifeLock, again, has your back. If you need coverage for lost wages because you had to take a back seat through all of this, you guessed it, LifeLock has your back still. Plus, there's coverage if you need to pay fees for lawyers and experts to resolve your case. Don't face the burden of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join now and save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code HERD. So call 1-800-LifeLock or go to lifelock.com and always use the promo code HERD, H-E-R-D, to save up to 40%. That's HERD at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
If you're lucky, the next time you visit Bell Tavern, Memphis' perfect downtown neighborhood bar, Harold will be behind the bar. You've probably been served by Harold at one time or another. He's a Memphis legend. Harold is the kind of bartender every bartender wants to be. He's been everywhere, seen everything, and done just about anything you can think of, and he has a story about everyone. Now, he's not going to force you to sit through stories if you want to just chat with your friends or be quiet by yourself. But if you engage with Harold at Bell Tavern, you won't regret it. If you want a cocktail and a tall tale, go to Bell Tavern.
Ole Miss Rebel Yell is back. The Rebel Yell Hotline Radio Show is back on WHBQ Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Every Monday night at 6, hear the latest news on your Ole Miss Rebels with Yancey Porter with 24/7 Sports, former Ole Miss defensive tackle Mike Fitzsimmons, Gordon Ford covering SEC Sports Call, and former Ole Miss baseball announcer Gary Darby. From kickoff to free throw to extra innings, your Ole Miss Sports on the Rebel Yell Hotline Show. Right here Monday night at 6 on Sports 56, 560 AM and 98.5 FM. Your Mid-South Sports Station.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Let's head to Columbus, Ohio. The great college football writer from the Sporting News, Bill Bender, joins us now. This is a sort of contradictory question, but I think it's fair. Bill, there are 39 undefeated college football teams at this moment, and yet it doesn't appear to me that there is a dominant football team out there. Do you agree with that? Good morning.
Morning. I think Ohio State is. I know I live in the bubble, but, I mean, complete team, defense, really hard to score on. Probably the best player in the country on the other side of the ball in Jeremiah Smith. Quarterbacks playing at a five-star level, and there are a lot of five-star quarterbacks not doing that. So I do think they are, but to your point, I mean, you can make a case for a handful of other teams. You know, we're going to see Penn State and Oregon next weekend, and that one ought to tell us a lot.
I think it should. There are 11 Big Ten teams that are undefeated. I saw that. And other than Ohio State, that, they played Texas to begin with. That was a 1-2 showdown. I'm not sure. Like, I looked at Illinois' schedule. I looked at Penn State's schedule this morning. They haven't played anybody, really. How do you know how good that league really is?
Right. Well, again, Illinois-Indiana will be a fun game on Saturday night. And I think, Indiana obviously hasn't played anybody, but they're piling up a bunch of rushing yards. And on the other end, Illinois, I was impressed when they went down to Duke and slammed the door on a Blue Devils team that a lot of people thought might win that game. So, but we'll find out.
Yeah, but then Tulane, now that was granted in New Orleans, but then Tulane, totally dominated that Duke team and their former quarterback, Mensah. So, here I go back to this premise, and I've talked about it a bunch, maybe with you. It used to be we would say the best improvement for a team would be between weeks 1 and 2, but with all these new teams, thanks to the portal and the new rules and NIL, I don't think you really know about a team until like 3 or 4 weeks in. It could be the greatest improvement is week 4 to week 5 for all we know, which starts usually conference play.
Could be, and then there's that added bonus of, like, you can lose the game early now. I don't know if you can lose 2 like Notre Dame did, but you can lose and figure it out. I mean, Clemson and Notre Dame are getting so many headlines right now because they lost 2. But, in reality, let's talk about Clemson. Like, Dabo went on a rant this week, and part of me felt like, you didn't need to because, they lost 2 really good teams. Georgia Tech looks like a playoff team. LSU could be one of those national title teams. They lost 2 games, and they lost by a field goal. And as Urban Meyer pointed out yesterday, think about it. Those 3 games, Georgia Tech makes a field goal, Tennessee misses one, Notre Dame botches an extra point. Those 3 special teams plays really altered the entire course.
Well, I say this all the time. People don't appreciate that, honestly, special teams is about a third of the game. And it does come into play. Certainly Tennessee feels that way because they outplayed Georgia last week.
And, obviously the entire what I wrote and what I would end up writing is entirely different. Georgia, though, I got to give Kirby Smart credit. They were down early. That could have been a blowout. They adjusted after Aguilar hit 14 of 14 passes. Gunnar Stockton made probably a throw of the year in some ways when he hit London Humphreys on the touchdown. And then they took care of business in overtime. So, that's a been there, done that type move by Kirby and that program, and we'll look for that to continue.
Do you think that we will have an undefeated champion when it's all said and done? Now with 12 teams in the playoffs, and Lord knows we could get 16 in the next couple of years, the days of an undefeated champ may be going out the window. I'm not sure we'll get one this year. I guess you would, based on what you said earlier, Ohio State's got a chance to do that. But do you see maybe Miami? Is there any other team that you think could run the table to win the national title?
Well, I didn't think we would get one in the 4-team era. I really didn't. And then it became like an almost every year thing. I think, so what do you have to go 16-0. I don't know. I don't know that we'll see one of those. I mean, even Ohio State, they've still got to play Penn State. They've still got to go to Illinois. Still got to play Michigan, and we know the history there in recent seasons. So could lose the Big Ten championship game, turn around, win a national title. I mean, I think it's going to be really hard to do that.
We are going to be, when this Saturday is completed, 1/3 of the way through the regular season. What have you learned? Is there any theme or two that you have picked up from these first 3 weeks?
Well, just let it play out. You know, I know some quarterbacks are struggling. You know, Arch, Lagway, a few others, and we're piling on those guys, Cade Klubnik. But for Texas, let it play out a little bit. I mean, the one thing they do have is the nasty defense that will keep them in every game, even the Ohio State game. And, you know, Arch will get better. So I think he's one. The fired coaches early. Little shocked that Virginia Tech went there that quick. Not as shocked about UCLA. They need to bring in somebody just to kind of change the entire outlook of that program. But no real surprises. I guess Notre Dame 0-2. I thought they would get one of those. They would get both of them. I didn't think they'd be 0-2 after 2 weeks.
Do they have enough on their schedule to get back into the good graces of the College Football Playoff Committee?
Well, I just would never say never. You know, that's kind of what last year we thought they were done. They lose to Northern Illinois.
Right.
Difference this year, they've lost two. Understand that. But it's one of those deals where I think probably the only ranked team they're going to play, if USC's ranked at that point. You're going to need the SEC and the Big Ten to cannibalize. You just said it. The Big Ten has 11 undefeated teams. The SEC has the best football in the country right now. There's games last week, even like Ole Miss, Arkansas was riveting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to have they do play Arkansas next week, so that'll be another barometer. They're going down to Arkansas, the Lou Holtz Bowl.
I like that. I wonder if Lou will be on hand for that. We haven't seen much of him, so you got to wonder about his health. But you know, Arkansas's got to beat Memphis at Memphis this Saturday. That's not a given that they're going to be 3-1 when they play the Irish in Northwest Arkansas.
It was pointed out to me today that Memphis, by my editor Bill Churchy, that Memphis is one of three teams with the longest winning streak in the nation right now.
They are.
Along with Illinois and Ohio State.
Yep, so 7 games.
That's good company to be in. And it took me a minute to get to Memphis, but got the other two right away. But, yeah, an opportunity here. And again, you mentioned it last week. This program's kind of flying under the radar. South Florida got all the attention before last week. Now Tulane's going to get a ton of attention, especially if they make it interesting with Ole Miss on Saturday and the way they've played early in the season. Maybe we'll get attention. But we'll get to Memphis eventually, and that'll probably be next week with like I said, with this Arkansas game. And then as we get into the American Conference season, whichever team can avoid like that second loss, and I do think the playoff berth will come out of that conference the way it looks.
So here's 2 other things that you need to know about Memphis. Since 2014, their home wins, I think, it's either 3rd or 4th in the country. This I know. Total wins in college football since 2014, they are number 12. So they have really turned the program around. Started with Justin Fuente, it went through Mike Norvell, and now Ryan Silverfield. But this will be the first true, real barometer game. Let's go back. You were talking quarterbacks, and we were talking misses like Arch. The jury is still way out on how good Arch Manning is going to be, in my estimation. Lagway, well, that was terrible last week, 5 picks. I think it's pretty clear. The Tennessee Volunteers did the better of the trade with Aguilar and Iamaleva because he seems to be really struggling. And as you mentioned, they fired their coach. But here's some hits. How about Carson Beck, who didn't make it at Georgia and now look at Miami? I think they're one of the teams that could be undefeated.
Yeah, it's definitely been efficient. He threw an interception last week, but that's one. You know, he's come out, he's played in 2 big games. They get Florida this week. They get Florida State in a couple weeks. He's veteran quarterback. And I think, again, value that the guy was 24-3 at Georgia, and we kind of just dismissed him because he did struggle a little bit with turnovers last year, but he also lost. It had just a losing Brock Bowers, who is arguably the best tight end in the NFL right now, and Ladd McConkey, who immediately carved out a role with the Chargers, and now he's here at Miami with that experience. I think even less pressure. That's crazy to me. Miami's less pressure than Georgia. I would have never said that 20 years ago, but he's crushing it, and I look for him to continue to do that.
How about Diego Pavia at Vandy and what they did at South Carolina? Now, I know Sellers probably was not 100% in that game hurt, but this kid, his moxie, Clark Lee, his coaching, this is a good story. I think they're kind of for real here.
Yeah, they can be undefeated when they play Alabama. We're going to find out how they deal with success this week. I just tongue-in-cheek earlier in the week. They're getting dangerously close to kind of like being America's team because of the format in the SEC. Pavia, like you said, he's got that moxie. Theo Vaughn on the sideline and all that. They're getting close, and we do want to see the sequel. They beat Alabama last year, and what a win that was. Now how they handle the success. They play Georgia State this week. They lost to Georgia State last year. Now they're 20-plus point favorites. That's two programs to keep an eye on this week. Watch Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. They've been getting attention all week and how great they are, and they're both 20-plus point favorites. Do they come out and just slam the door this week, or do they mess around? And I've seen that time and again over the years.
Let's see. All right, last thing real quick. The debacle of Virginia Tech, another fired coach, so UCLA and Virginia Tech this past week. Do you think that they would try to entice Shane Beamer, son of their longtime historic coach, their legendary coach? Do you think they tried to bring him back?
I think they will become that job. And which one's the better job? 10 years ago, Virginia Tech's probably the better job, but not now. I mean, South Carolina, you're in the SEC. The drawback is, you're going to have a week like last week. And I think security in the SEC is fleeting because you've got to do it every year, and there'd be some stability at Virginia Tech, and he'd probably have a long runway knowing that he's Frank's kid. But tough decision. I thought that, and then there's Michael Vick rumors, but I think we're ways away from him doing that. But they got to find somebody. They've really struggled to find that right fit. And I know Justin Fuente, he had some success there, but they haven't had that right fit since.
Nope. And maybe they pulled the trigger on Justin a little bit too
early.
Agree. Bill Bender from the Sporting News, we thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy, and we'll talk again next Thursday.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. That's Bill Bender. We got to take a break. When we come back, we will head on downtown to the Hall of Famers place. That's Jarvis Greer on the Tigers and the Hogs. He comes your way in a minute.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Guns, guns, and more guns. Over 700 firearms in stock. Home defense guns, old guns, new guns, used guns, big guns, little guns. Every gun you can think of, Classic Arms has them. All brands like Glock, Sig, Colt, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Browning, Beretta, Benelli, Remington, Winchester, and more. Guaranteed lowest prices in town. Only gun importer in the Mid-South. Free gun inspections and appraisals and free bore sighting for the upcoming deer season. Shop online at ClassicArmsOfMemphis.com or visit Classic Arms at 1740 Germantown Parkway behind Corky's Barbecue in Cordova.
Hey, this is Erin with Millington Weight Loss and Wellness. Are you struggling with your weight loss journey? At Millington Weight Loss and Wellness, we have our new Evolve X treatments that melts the fat, tightens the skin, and works the muscles all in the same treatment. And it's on a summer blast sale for $100. That's a $300 savings. We also have our GLP-1 semaglutide and trizepatide, NAD+, ProTrim Plus, and B12 lipo injections. Millington Weight Loss and Wellness is located off of Highway 51 in Millington, behind Pop's Barbecue. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Call us at 901-436-0272. We look forward to helping you with your weight loss journey.
Don't miss the 53rd Annual Pink Palace Crafts Fair at Audubon Park, September 26th through the 28th. Bring the whole family and enjoy 3 days of food, live music, and of course, shopping for one-of-a-kind arts and crafts from across the Mid-South. It's a Memphis tradition you don't want to miss. The Pink Palace Crafts Fair, September 26th through the 28th at Audubon Park. Sponsored by First Horizon Foundation, Friends of the Pink Palace, and your friends at Sports 56.
If you love sports and Mexican food, you can get the best of both at Los Cabos Mexican Bar and Grill on Summer near Graham. Watch all the big games on all the big TVs on all the walls at Los Cabos and enjoy premium tequila shots anytime for just $5.50. Celebrate every day with lunch specials from 10 to 3 and happy hour from 3 to 8. Lunch is just $6.75 to $10.99 and margaritas start at $3.99. Experience real Mexican cuisine along with great sports at Los Cabos on Summer near Graham.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director at Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Here's what sets NST Law apart. They don't just work in Memphis, they ride for Memphis. From school fundraisers to courtroom battles, they show up where it matters. And when someone in this city gets hurt, NST goes toe-to-toe with insurance giants. No fear, no favors. It's not just the law to them, it's loyalty. And if you ever need backup after a crash, NST's got your back. NST is the way to go. Call 683-7000 or check out nstlaw.com.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
All right, let's head downtown. The Hall of Famer Jarvis Greer standing by. Do you feel the buzz? Do you feel the anticipation? This, obviously, the biggest game so far this year. The Tigers, the Hogs, in a much-anticipated game. Haven't had one since '98, so 27 years in the making. Good morning, Jarvo.
Yeah, man, I'm ready to go now. Let's get those Razorbacks in the sim, and let's see if we can cook up a little barbecue this weekend. Let's have some fun.
A lot of good stories. I think the premise of this football game, honestly, is can the Tigers keep up scoring to match what Arkansas most likely will be able to do? They've scored on everybody. They have a great dual threat quarterback. We have already seen once in the sim against Memphis in a Boise uniform, and then he was the star of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl for Arkansas a year ago. He's actually played more games in the stadium than Brendan Lewis, the Tiger starter.
Yeah, that's really crazy. And the fact that, when they played Boise here a couple of years ago, not only did Boise have Taylor Green, they also had Ashton Genty. And, Taylor Green put up, I think he threw for 200 yards and ran for 50, and then they pulled him for Maddox Madsen, the guy that's quarterback in Boise now. It didn't work because the Tigers won the game. But, he's been here, and then he looked tremendous in that Liberty Bowl. He's looked tremendous every game this year. It's just I think he's averaging almost 400 yards a game by himself, throwing and running.
No,
he's just an incredible athlete.
He is.
At 6'6" and 220 or something like that.
Yeah.
He is a gazelle with his legs, and he's very accurate throwing the ball, and he's gotten really heady. And, he's got Bobby Petrino as his offensive coordinator, so you know what kind of video game coordinator Bobby Petrino is, and they've been able to score a lot of points on a lot of people.
Interesting story about how his dad, Taylor Green's dad, Quentin Green, was the coach of Brendan Lewis on a basketball team from 6 years old to fourth grade back in Texas. And at one point, Green and Lewis were teammates on that basketball team.
Yeah. His dad, was the coach, and they were like teammates, but they also went after each other really hard. Taylor was taller at the time. I think B. Lou, Brendan Lewis was the point guard, and Taylor Green was a forward. Of course, Green is 6'6" now, and Brendan Lewis is 6'3". But man, they both are kind of similar in the fact that they are dual threat quarterbacks, and I don't think that the Tigers have really unleashed Brendan Lewis, all his talents on offense. They've pretty much been plain vanilla through these first 3 games. They don't want to, like the old saying goes, don't show your enemy what you do. Don't give them anything that they can scheme. But I think they're going to let everything go this weekend. I think they're going to have to because Memphis, as I heard you say earlier, Arkansas will score because that's what they do. Now, can they stop the Tigers? We'll see. But a big question is, can the Tigers' defense slow down Taylor Green and company?
No, I think if Memphis cannot run the ball, that has been their bread and butter. And I don't see why they can't, but I do remember Sam Pittman saying the one thing we're better at defensively is stopping the run. Will Brendan Lewis be able to throw the ball down the field? And we haven't seen that really yet this year. Not that he can't, and his accuracy is still over 73%. But can he, against that mammoth defensive, I've never seen a bigger line, 385, one tackle, the other's like 325. Then you got 2 defensive ends that are 270 and 280. I mean, that's the biggest line I've seen.
Well, on top of my head, what coaches like to do when they face defensive lines like that, especially if you got a quarterback that can also run, he becomes like that 5th attacker, a guy is tough to scheme for, is that they'll do a lot of side-to-side, get those guys running, and maybe try to tire them out a little bit. And I think we'll see a lot more. We'll see more RPO. But it's not that Brendan Lewis hasn't thrown the ball downfield. He's got 4 or 5 completions over 50 yards this season in 3 games.
But now wait a second. That's a little misleading. You and I both know that was yards after catch. For the most part.
Well, I mean, but they've thrown some downfield. Like Jamari Hawkins has got a couple of catches where he got tackled after he caught the ball, but they were like 35, 40 yards down the field.
And there was a drop. There was a drop to a tight end that was at least 35 or 40 yards away. Bryce Anderson last week.
Yeah, you cannot drop the ball when you're open. But like the biggest thing that we've seen from Brendan Lewis so far throwing the football is he hits them when they're open, and that's all. And Pepper Rogers, who used to coach the Showboats and was a really good college coach for a while. He coached that Showboats team that had Walter Lewis and Reggie White. He said, I don't ask much for my quarterbacks. Just hit them when they're open. If they're open, hit them. And that's what Brendan, his 73% completion percentage says it all right there. And he has been accurate on just about every one of his throws. He's only got 1 interception this year, and he got hit when he threw that one. So he's put a couple up there in traffic. He may have to do a little bit more than that, more of that against Arkansas, but Ole Miss had a second-string quarterback that could run last week, and he ran roughshod over the Hogs.
That's true.
Basically.
And Lewis may run more. Or you got a weapon like Sutton Smith. In fact, Sutton Smith won his 2nd week in a row the Paul Hornung Award. It's a national award for running backs, which I don't think that's ever happened to a Tiger running back, including D'Angelo Williams, the greatest running back in Tiger history.
I don't think that's happened.
That's pretty amazing.
I don't think that's happened to any Tiger.
Yeah.
And since I was a little kid, going to Tiger games back in old Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium, Memphis against Southern Miss and all those black and blue games, all the way up to playing there and then covering the team, once I graduated, I don't remember everybody winning any national award 2 weeks in a row. I know we've had several win, they won this week, and then maybe several weeks later they won it. Won, but not 2 weeks in a row. It's just been incredible. Just like the defensive back that had 2 pick sixes in a row.
Yeah, DeMarco Ward. Right, I've never seen that.
Ward. He almost had a pick in that last game against Troy, but he was a little late on the dime.
And what the heck, DeWozie may be back, I mean, he's day-to-day. We'll see what Ryan has to say about him in a little bit. I look forward to that. How about the Brady Kluse catch?
Oh, man.
Made Sports Center top 10. I still marvel at that one. That was, and you got to give Lewis credit on that. He put that in a place where only his guy could get it, and then one hand and get the foot. That was an amazing athletic maneuver by Kluse.
Yeah, that Sports Center top 10 that night. I was watching ESPN, and it was the number 1 play that night, but on the next day they put it to number 10, but it still made Sports Center top 10. So everybody knows about number 12, Brady Kluse. And that just one of those where he reaches out, it hits his hand, and he barely gets the toe. It was simultaneous, basically. It happened simultaneously that the ball's in his hand, and he's got the ball, and his toe is down. His toe comes up. He pulls the ball in, gathers it to the body, and completes the catch all the way to the ground, as the officials like to call it. And that was just a simple, great play. You know, he made a great play last year, and when he burst on the scene as a freshman, making a one-hand grab in a game at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. So that's possible that he can do that. And it was also a great throw off a back foot by Brendan Lewis. He said he did it on purpose, throwing it where only his guy could get it, and doggone it, only his man got it, and it was good for 6 for them.
Are we going to get a sellout? Will there be 39,000 there, and what's the makeup of the crowd going to be?
Well, I'm hoping like you. I'm looking 70-30. You know there's going to be Hawks fans there. They all live here. I mean, it's just across the river, for goodness sake. But, you know, I'm looking for Tiger fans to get off the shelf. What are they? If you're waiting on something, there's no more waiting. This is the game you want to go to. And, you know, you win this game, every other game gets bigger. And the crowd should get bigger and bigger as we go along because, you know, you got an SEC team in here. We'll see on that Mississippi State home-and-home series that's coming up in 28 and 29. But, you know, with the SEC going to 9 games now, they don't want to play Memphis anymore. You know, we already saw Missouri buy out the game here and move it to St. Louis, and Tigers almost got the money and the win. And only lost by a touchdown in that one. And, you know, Arkansas is kicking a game down a road to, 2030. It's like, no, they don't want – when you get good, they don't want to play you. And I think that the Tigers have been good consistently under Ryan Silverfield. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. And, you know, it's like, yeah, you want to play regional games, but it's not like back when I was playing, Dave. You could play anybody anytime, and it didn't matter. You know, you play Memphis, and then you go and play your league. And, you know, we'd win or we'd lose, but, okay, hey, great game, thanks for coming. But now, you know, they put a stigma on Group of 5 teams. You know, it's like, no, we can't play them.
Well, then
we don't want to play
now
them.
the Power 4 have to play at least 9 conference games plus 1 from the Power 4, which means there's only 2 openings. All right, last thing real quick. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the late, great Les Smith. There's an excellent Tim Buckley column about that now, which you are quoted in, by the way.
Yeah, Les Smith, he's just a great guy. He came up to work at Channel 5 back in the 80s. He, you know, had his 2 little boys with him and his wife, and they, you know, Jason is now, you know, a really good reporter and on-air broadcaster in his own right. Jeff was his little brother, a couple of years younger than him, and I remember they were little Sputniks running around. But Les was a tremendous writer who had a panache about the way that he could turn a phrase. He had a great voice, and he was very thorough. You know, he did sports with us at Channel 5, and then I think when Tom Stocker left Channel 3, he moved over there and became their lead sports anchor. And at the end of his career, he was at the ABC affiliate here, and I think it was still Channel 13 then. I don't think they had made the switch to 24, but it did news and was just excellent, thorough in his reporting, but also he gave you that sense that, you know, it wasn't biased reporting, but he gave you that sense that, hey, it's going to be okay. You know, this is the story, but it's going to be okay. And the way he could turn a phrase and do it with a dry wit was just, you know, he's just one of those guys that, wow, how does he come up with this? And it flowed easily from him.
Yeah. No.
And so we're all going to miss Les, and, you know, prayers up to Jason and his family.
Yep. I'm with you. He was also brilliant. He worked for all 4 news operations in Memphis and somehow got around non-competes. I don't know, but he was brilliant. That is for sure. Jarvo, thank you much. I'll see you in just a little bit at the football offices, and can't wait to do the ball game with you on Saturday.
Sounds like fun, Dave. Looking forward to it.
That's our man. That is Jarvis Greer downtown, and that'll do it for us today. It'll be an interesting day tomorrow. We will have the newest college football playoff senior advisor, Justin Fuente, is going to join us. That'll be at 10:25. We'll make our picks. We'll end the week with Jason Munz, who's been off a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to that. This final portion of the show has been brought to you by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. Whether it's a renovation or building your dream house, the Garlands understand the big picture while seeing all the little details. That's what you need in a home builder. So if you are looking to maybe utilize land that's been in your family, you're not sure how to do it, they've got the wisdom. 3 generations of Ken Garland's. Now William Garland is in the mix, the 3rd generation, and they're with you the whole way. I mean, the project may be done 6 months ago some issue comes up, they're right there because that's what they say. The job is never completed. It's like family. That's why they've been around for 80 years. Could be a renovation. You want all the new modern amenities, renovation with innovation. That's what you get with Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. That'll do it for us. Johnny Radio.